And back on 4th Street, Jackson Kennedy, Dima Mixon. Southern Miss loses. They are 1-5. They lost 17-13 against Old Dominion. And this is our instant reactions video. We normally have multiple videos, but I don't know what else there is to talk about except what we saw from the game. So, Southern Miss did not have an offensive touchdown this game. Their only touchdown came on an 82-yard punt return from Ty Mims, which was incredible. And he almost had a second one, except he was pointing at someone to get out of his way. So we did that, and the refs said that was an inadequate signal or something like that. And so they ruled it a fair catch. So instead of a 60-yard second punt return touchdown for Ty Mims, it was just ruled a fair catch, which kind of stinks because I got some really cool pictures of it. But a heartbreaking loss. Dima, tell me what you saw. Just tell me your instant reactions.
Yeah, the Ty Mims fair catch was the correct call, 100%. He did lift his arm up over his shoulder, regardless of whether he was pointing at somebody, because I remember watching live, I was like, what? Because we thought that they were going to call him stepping out of bounds near the 5 or 6. That's what we thought they were reviewing. Then we watched it back on the telecast, and Ty Mims definitely raised his arm up. He said in postgame he thought he didn't, but any motion you make towards the air with any arm, no matter if it's a fair catch or not, is considered a fair catch because, when you have defenders coming down to 90-0, they're going to see your arm up. They're going to slow down. That's kind of what happened. That's why it was kind of weird because Ty Mims caught the ball in the middle of 5 ODE players and he just ran right by them. But, yeah, his first return was great. As far as the game, punt, field goal, punt, half, punt, field goal, punt, downs. That was Southern Miss's drive chart with 3 3-and-outs. They got inside the 10 3 times, 2 field goals and a turnover on downs. Frank Gore, 29 carries for 73 yards, an average of 2 yards a run. That's the game, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to beat any team when you do something that is obviously not working in the middle of the game. You're not going to beat a team. And, you can sugarcoat it all you want, like Will Hall and the players were trying to do in there, if we did this, maybe we do this, maybe we do that. But the bottom line is you didn't do that, and you can't expect to beat teams. You can't. This game should not have been close. I mean, this game seemed like Southern Miss was fixing to, on the brink in the first half of blowing this open. But they let Old Dominion hang on around just long enough because, it was 10-0, 10-7, 13-7. Just this long, grueling, there were so many opportunities for Southern Miss to win this game tonight, and they just didn't do it. And that falls 100% on the offense. And, we're back on, just flip-flopping. Last week, it fell on the defense. This week, it falls on the offense. The week before that, it fell on the defense. The week before that, it fell on the offense. So my instant reaction is just this team is not prepared to win football games right now, and that's the bottom line. I don't know if they win another game this season. I don't know if what happens after in the offseason. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know. But what I do know is this team is not prepared to win football games right now, no matter the talent on this team, because it's not like that. I don't like the stuff that's like Frank Gore Jr. is terrible, Billy Wiles was terrible. It was the execution, but it's also they're not prepared. They're not prepared to come in here tonight on homecoming in front of 23,000 fans and beat an Old Dominion team who, by all means, really couldn't move the ball on offense. They had 3 big plays, and they still outgained Southern Miss 337-276. You just can't have that, Jackson. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, no, it was. I was impressed by the defense for Southern Miss because the 2 times that they did allow a score were off the brink of 2 explosive plays. At their first touchdown was nearly a 70-80 yard touchdown pass, but Jay Stanley again made a high effort, high intensity play preventing a touchdown. So just I want to give a shout out to him. He's playing his heart out. He's been playing really, really good football pretty much all season. I know that game against Arkansas State, he didn't have that good of a game, but the thing is he was called out for it. He was called out for it, and he was called out for his lack of effort. He's really made up for that. I think he has been one of the more impressive players. Avery Habas had a fantastic game. Josh Carr had a good game. Dylan Lawrence came away with insanely well-timed sack. And, if the same exact defensive staff, right, if the same exact roster, the same exact 11 to 15 people, depending on who you put out and win, if they go from allowing 44 points, 50 points, and they drop all the way down to 17, you should expect the offense that scored 34 points, 36 points, to score more than 17. And I don't... To score more than 13, yeah. But honestly, to score more than 17 to win the game. You know what I mean? But the offense scored 6. Yep. The offense scored 6 points tonight, and you can tell that the players are upset. And, I do believe Coach Hall when he says that this is a much more talented team than they're showing, because they are. I mean, Dima and I, Dima, our dear Dima here, staunch. He calls himself a realist. I call him a pessimist. But we love him. Even he had them going 7-5. I had them going 8-4. Potentially, if this team played to their talents and they exposed weaknesses of other teams, I was like, double-digit wins. It'd be crazy. It's not impossible. Losses to what? South Alabama and Florida State. You're still a 10-win team. The team's talented enough to do that, and I still believe that if this team played to the extent of which their talents allowed, they could be an 8-10-win team. But they're 1-5. They're 1-5, and I know the next home game is November 4th, so there's still 2 away games to happen because, bye week, fall break, and then you have South Alabama and then App State, right, which are going to be 2 crazy tough teams. If Southern Miss doesn't win both of those games, these stands are going to be empty, man. And it's disheartening. It's disheartening for the players because they are so talented, and this team was hyped up so much, and they've just I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you go into South Alabama and App State, probably 2 losses. This team tonight is not going to beat South Alabama, who just beat ULM by 50. And then, going to Boone and beating App State, very tough. So I think, Southern Miss fans aren't going to want to hear this, but I know that Southern Miss fans watching this are frustrated and everything. The season is over, right? So, I'll gladly eat my words on that if they win 6 games and go bowling or whatever. But, this season, they're not going to reach a bowl game, most likely. I'm not going to say 100%, but I'd say 98% sure they're probably not going to reach a bowl game.
He gave us 2%. So that's, giving this team 2%, that's just, I don't know. I'm kind of proud because, I was thinking he was going to go, 99.9, but no, he backed down and said 98. Let's make note of that.
98% chance that Southern Miss does not reach a bowl game this year. But I want to talk more about this game because that's more of the big picture stuff. But, when you have these 2 quarterbacks in for ODU and, Shields was terrible. I mean, he was just awful. And what's crazy is they were still moving the ball. That's what's on. He went 0 for 4. He didn't even complete a pass for the whole first quarter. And Southern Miss, it was tied. It just didn't make sense how Old Dominion was even in this game. That. It's blows my mind that Old Dominion was even in this game. But when you let a team hang around for that long, eventually, 17 points for ODU, they're like, hey, if we can win when we score 17 points, we're going to take that all day. Are you kidding me? That's what I think to me, this is just you can't do that in your home field. And Jackson's right. When you come back to the Rock on November 4th after they will be 1-7, these stands are going to be empty. The players are going to be demoralized. So it's going to be a lot of tough football from here on out, and we appreciate you watching our coverage, and we'll continue to bring you top-notch coverage. Our coverage is not going to change no matter what this football team does, and we want to make sure you know that. We're still going to be here. We're still going to cover the team for you. But now it's time, I think, for our coverage to shift to be asking questions about how does this get fixed? How does next year look? How does this team bounce back? And, you go bowling last year. You win a bowl game, and now you're 1-5. That is significant cause for, I remember a few weeks ago, are we pushing the alarm button? We were talking about that in the podcast. I think you're pushing the alarm button now. Like, this is the most push alarm button loss you can ask for when you lose to arguably the worst Sun Belt team coming into the season in Old Dominion. Obviously, they've surprised some folks. But this talent on the Southern Miss team should be able to score more than 6 offensive points against Old Dominion. And the reason I'm so worked up about this is because it's just disheartening to see. And I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's what it is, but it's disheartening to me to see Jackson and I get a in-depth view of a relationship with these players. And so it's a different from you watching them, because I know it's easier for fans to criticize players they don't talk to or they don't interview so it's like a different relationship here. So I'm not angry necessarily that Southern Miss lost. It's just it makes me frustrated that the players who are genuinely good guys and genuinely want to win, it's sad to see them fail in this way. And we saw. I mean, you can go on our YouTube and watch Billy Wiles and Avery Hobbs in there, and Ty Mims, like, they're demoralized. Like, Billy was asked about the deficiencies in the red zone, and he's like, I don't even know. Like, that was his response. He said, why were y'all so deficient in the red zone? He said, I don't even know. We got to find a way. And that shows me that, like, I mean, I don't know what to say about that answer. That answer really bothered me.
Yeah, I just wanted to bounce off of that. Again, like, I know this, and I know this because I transitioned from a fan who did not go to Southern Miss to a fan who went to Southern Miss and now a journalist. And, last year before that, especially the year before that, whenever I wasn't a student here, it was so easy to criticize players. I never liked doing it. I never liked directly criticizing a player unless they've done something morally reprehensible, So, like, I never liked doing it, but it was easy. And now, like, I take pictures of these guys. I send them DMs or texts back and forth, sending them pictures for them to show their families. Like, I'm on a first name basis with these guys, and you get to know them. Like, you get to build a relationship with them, and it's not like the normal journalist athlete relationship, because Dima and I have classes with these guys. Like, I'll see them walking into the cafeteria. I'll give them a high five. We'll be in line for food, and we'll stop and talk, and I was like, hey, look, I got this picture of you last week. Did you get that? And like that happened this past week with Josh Carr and Michael Caraway, and I have not met a person on this team that I have not absolutely loved. They're all incredibly good people. They're all incredibly talented. They're so good. Like, fall camp, Dima and I were like, dude, if these guys play like this, if Billy Wiles chucks it down the field like he does, if Brandon Hayes can catch like he's been catching, if Frank Gore can run like he's been running, Southern Miss could beat Mississippi State in Starkville. And we were talking about, like, what would that look like? And, spirits were so high heading into this year. We were like, dude, if Frank Gore Jr. plays well enough, we could see him getting drafted in, like, the third round if he plays well enough. And now we're like, and now there's worries among the fan base that with how terrible of a season that's happened, there are worries that he may transfer. Now given, of course, none of that's substantiated, but if you have the talent that some of these players have and you go potentially 1-11, I don't know what's keeping you staying. And that's what's sad, because this team, this core, has built a culture, and however much you want to criticize Will Hall, which, you can do, he's built it back the right way. He has sustained a good culture of good, genuine human beings, but they're just not winning, and I don't know why.
Yeah, and I think the fans are tired of that, though. I think that they're tired of hearing about the culture. I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying that, like, I think that's one reason I feel like a potential, there has to be action on the field. This is year 3. When you recruit a football player, year 1, you're kind of getting them in the motion. You're kind of bringing them into that culture, right? Year 2, maybe the better players pop off, right? The better players will pop off in their sophomore seasons, and then you're like, wow, look at that talent. But by your junior year, you're supposed to be, the guy. And it's the same with coaching, especially for a coach like Will Hall. I mean, year one, obviously, a lot of excuses there, a lot of reasons for the way that season went.
Warranted excuses, I might add.
Warranted excuses, right? Year two, what a turnaround, right? From what you saw in year one to get that team to a bowl basically without a quarterback, with Frank Gore running all over players like he was, and the defense stomp each week outside of Georgia State. Almost beat Coastal Carolina, who was the better team in the Sun Belt last year, on the road. And then you come into this season with practically the same team, and you look awful in every game. I mean, they haven't really been competitive in like any game, and that's outside. I mean, I'm throwing away the Alcorn State game, and so I think just like I understand your sentiment of, we love Will Hall, we love the guy, and we have to see results on the field. And I think if they went 1-11 this year, I mean, obviously we're not going to sit up here and call for Will Hall's job or anything. Obviously not. We're not in a position to do that. We report the facts and we can give opinions, but we're not going to do that now. But I think there has to be some kind of change, and Will Hall tried to do it with the offensive line, and I don't think that really worked today. The run game was awful. I mean, 40 carries for Frank Gore Jr., 39, whatever it was, for 79 yards. I mean, Jackson, it was 3rd and 10, and they tried jet sweep. I mean, things just don't make sense of why they're being called. So I don't know if that means they need to get an actual offensive coordinator where Will Hall's not having to call the plays. There has to be something done. I think that is definitely warranted now. I think there has to be something done because this team, like we said, is way too talented to lose on your home field to this Old Dominion team who, by every stretch of the imagination, Southern Miss is better than. So, I mean, when Old Dominion doesn't even complete a pass in the first quarter and they still come in here and win, I mean, that's just bad. It's just really sad. Also want to mention one more thing about the game. 4th and 1 on the 38-yard line or whatever in the fourth quarter. Will Hall calls a timeout there, and to bring the punt team back onto the sideline, he was thinking about going for it, but then he sends the punt team back out, and that was a timeout that at the end of the game was very crucial to them to get the ball back. And so some of those things that just the coaching decisions, not necessarily just from Will Hall, but it's like the little things that are crucial that there's some things I just don't understand. So, my instant reaction is I don't know what the rest of the season is for this team. Maybe it's 1-11, maybe it's 6-6. I don't know. Whatever it is, there needs to be significant change. And you're not going to South Alabama and beating the Jaguars if you play like you did tonight. You're definitely not going to App State and beating them if you play like tonight. You're probably not even beating ULM. I mean, that's the reality. You're definitely not going to Starkville and beating State. Troy today just destroyed Arkansas State, so that's going to be tough at the end of the year. I don't remember who the other team they played, but anyway, so all that being said, like I said just a second ago, Jackson and I and Zion and Devin will still be giving you all the coverage for Southern Miss football. That's never going to change. Our effort and our coverage will never change. No matter if this football team is 0-12, we'll still give you top quality coverage. So just thanks for listening to listening to us. So
yeah, I just want to echo that. It's again, neither of us are going to call for jobs, and even if Southern Miss goes 1-11, unless there's something crazy that happens, I don't even think firing Coach Hall is the right move because you can't pin it all on him, and also he's got one more year on his contract, and I mean I hate to turn on my pessimistic lens, but if you're a Southern Miss fan, then you've been in this spot before. You've been in this spot before for a while, and it kind of stinks, but the school doesn't have enough money to do so. And again, I don't even think it'd be the right thing. Personally, objective journalists aside, or even with an objective journalist lens, I think it would be fantastic for this university for Coach Hall to stay for 20 years and build a legacy. You know what I mean? I think that would be incredible for the school. It'd be incredible for recruiting, Like, on practice at Tuesdays, it is not uncommon to see Jeff Bauer on the sidelines. And he gives Coach Hall a hug. He talks to him. And, as someone who's grown up around Southern Miss my whole life, me and Dima both have been going to Southern Miss games since since I was 5 and since Dima was probably in the womb. But that's awesome for us to see. And again, calling for jobs, I understand where it comes from. I don't think it's the right move. I don't know. Obviously, I'm fine with being wrong, but I don't want it to be. You know, like I want this team to bounce back this season because, call me a homer, call me a fan, whatever. But I've really gotten to know these guys, and Dima's known these guys for as long as he's been doing it, and he's only gotten closer with them. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I hurt for them. I really, really do. They are so good at what they do, and I don't know why it's not being shown in front of the fans. Because, even in practice, 3 weeks ago, Dima and I were watching. We were actually standing exactly where we are. Frank Gore Jr. lines up on the 10-yard line, and he lines up wide. He runs this beautiful route, and easy touchdown. Easy 90-yard touchdown. It was awesome. I don't know what's happening, but I hurt for these guys. I know that there needs to be a change, and there does. And so but I don't know what that change looks like.
Yeah, I would just say I was trying to pull it up on Twitter. I saw it, but I know that James Madison is their second year in the FBS, and they have more wins than Coach Hall has at Southern Miss. So I don't do what you want to do with that, but there has to be change on the field, on the football field. Excuse me, in a game. I got tricked up on my spit there. In the game, not at practice, not in the tape, not at whatever, not in Golden Eagle Hotline on Thursday nights at walk-ons. It has to be on the field. And if it's not on the field, there has to be significant change coming. And that's what I'm going to say from here on out. And, next week, if it's a close game against South Alabama, that's great. They're probably not going to win, but be competitive, Show that you're actually competitive. And if you can't show that, don't come.
Yeah, no, that is exactly the case. I mean, I was standing on the sidelines, and it's funny because, standing on the sidelines and moving around, you get to know a lot of people, but you don't know their names because everybody either has a camera or a walkie-talkie. And there are people that I was standing on this side of the sideline with all the way there. And as soon as a big pass is done, I said, "Hey, there's some life here. There's some signs of life." And they looked like it really looked like Southern Miss was going to blow it open, and but they did look competitive. They looked like they could win it, but they didn't look competitive. And I guess that's just because after the last 3 weeks Southern Miss has had, you need them to have a win, and you need them to have a big win. Or you need them to have a close win, or at least keep it close with some monstrous opponent. But they're 1-5, and they're not even at the hardest. But they just finished the easiest part of their schedule, Arky State, Texas State, Old Dominion. Going into this season, Dima and I were like, dude, 3-0 week. 3-0 month, Great thing. I had them.
The toughest part of the schedule is coming up.
The toughest part of the schedule. I had them at this point 5-1. Dima, you had them at 4-2. At 4-2. I don't know what it is, and it doesn't like that.
Very wrong.
we were very wrong, and I does it look like the coaches know what it is?
I don't know, man. Like I said before, if you're not competitive on the field, that's on coaching to not getting you prepared for games. They were not prepared to win this game tonight, and that's the bottom line. That's it. They were not prepared to win this game tonight. There were several critical mistakes that you just can't make, and they make them consistently. Last week, they made several critical mistakes that you can't make to try to do would be an all-time comeback against Arkansas State. Critical mistakes in that game. Tulane, where you drop the tight end pass that changes that game. You go up right there 7-3 in the second. That whole game's different. Critical mistakes. So critical mistakes tells me that the coaching is not getting them prepared to win this game. So I don't know if the coaches know what it is, and maybe it's just the players. Maybe the players just have brain farts during the game. But whatever it is, they're not prepared to win a football game.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. I don't know if we could really have put it any differently. And Dima and I would very much prefer to be covering a 5-1 team right now because it's a lot more fun. You can ask fun questions. You can, spirits are higher. It's upsetting to see because again, we know these guys. We love these guys. They're great, genuinely great people, and seeing them go through this, it's not pleasant, and it doesn't make our jobs very fun, and it feels like every time that we boot this up, especially after these losses, Dima, it feels like you and I are like bringing bad news to someone that we really would like to be bringing good news, But bottom line is Southern Miss is 1-5. There needs to be changes. There needs to be changes, and I thought that those changes would come. They did come for the defense. The defense looked pretty dang good.
Against a terrible
against a terrible offense. Yes, against a terrible offense.
Awful offense. Terrible offense. So, yeah, the defense looked great against a team who doesn't complete a pass in the first quarter. That's great.
Yeah, but, again, it's like I thought the changes were coming this week. Dima, even, the realist of the two of us, thought the changes were coming.
I picked ODU to win.
Yeah, but, you picked them to win by 7.
Yeah.
But you picked the offense to score 28.
I did. Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but time will tell. I'm sure we will figure it out. I hope for the sake of the guys on the field that they get some wins under their belt. But I don't know. Whatever happens, though, again, like Dima said, whether Southern Miss is 12-0 or 0-12, we're going to be here out in the field. We're going to be doing our Monday radio show, which we then post on podcast. We do our Thursday show. We write stories, take pictures, do all this stuff because we do love what we do. And we love being people that have access to this and have the privilege to bring it to you. So if you've watched this far of our ramblings, thank you. Southern Miss is 1-5. They have a bye week, and not only do they have a bye week, Southern Miss has fall break. So it's going to be a good time, like what people were saying in the post-game presser, to hopefully hit a reset button. Work at it hard, prepare for South Alabama hard. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is Dima and I are going to be here every game that we can. I think the only game that you and I aren't going to for the rest of the season is App State, right? So we will be here every game coming at you with these. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. Thank you for stopping us on campus or at games or at tailgates, saying hi, asking us about sports. It makes our day. But that's all from us. For Dima Mixon, I'm Jackson Kennedy, and that was Instant Reactions. ODU 17, Southern Miss 13. And that was the 4th Street Sports Show.